Everyone. I wanted to share something that I was working on recently with my students this week for my grammar class. But I mean, this principle can be applied really to any type of lesson, right? And that's the thing we have to remember as teachers is, a lot of the stuff we're learning about, how to make materials or be more effective teachers. It's a lot of it's about principles, right? Underlying principles that can be applied in all kinds of situations. Um, and not just, for this problem, here's the solution, right? So anyway, not to be too abstract, but let me just contextualize it. So we had the focus for the grammar class. This is a 200 level, so beginning high, and the focus for that lesson, or I should say that not a module, a unit, a major focus of that was using be verbs. Okay, just gonna adjust my chair. Sorry for the sound, but be verbs are, a lot of languages have be verbs, maybe all languages. I know Spanish has them, Japanese has them. I'm a Japanese speaker, but it's still going to be different in English, right, than other languages. And, the book is going to say, okay, here's how you use the be verb, make a question using the be verb, um, fill in the blank with the correct form of the be verb, right? But what I noticed was that, especially for questions, students kept doing something different. Sometimes they would use the be verb correctly in a question, but sometimes they would use a different verb in the question and then still try to use the be verb as well. Or a little less common, but they would use the ing verb. And let me just show you what they typically do. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you on ChatGPT. So or I should say I'm teaching a beginning high ESL class. My students are supposed to be learning how to use the be verb. Our focus is making questions. I've noticed that students often make questions like this, or statements. It could be not just a question. Where are you live? Is he run? Is the man run? What's another one? Yeah, I think they need help differentiating between be verbs and do verbs, if that makes sense. So I actually already solved this problem during the week, but I just kind of wanted to show you what could be done. So are you happy? Where are you live? Right? And it's understandable, right? So the thing is, what I was originally doing was I was kind of forcing the students to use the be verb and telling them, okay, this is not correct. We're going to work on that later, right? Like a do verb. But then I started thinking, you know what? Students are not all in the same stage of development, right? Even if they're in the same level. You got some students who are at the higher end of the level, some students who are at the lower end. And also learning doesn't happen in a prescribed order, right? So we don't have to just learn the be verbs first. I mean, is there a reason for that? I don't know. You can learn be verbs and do verbs for questions at the same time. If they're making these mistakes, instead of saying, well, we're going to try to fix them in a future lesson, why don't we just address it at that moment? And just ask, for example, ask ChatGPT why. Why are they making these changes, right? Or why are they making these mistakes? Because there's a reason. If so many students are making these mistakes, the question is why? There must be an underlying reason, right? So gives me this. I mean, I know the answer, but it's good to present it to the students in a very clear way, rather than just discouraging them and saying, okay, you must use a question. You must make a question with the be verb, because then I think it makes it a little bit arbitrary, right? And I think that's one of the issues with textbooks, is that they kind of put you in a box, right? Make 10 questions using the be verb, and it's like, well, how about make 10 questions and then decide whether it's a be verb question or a do verb question, right? instead of just forcing them into that box of just making be verb questions, because it does feel a little bit arbitrary, even for myself when I'm making some of the exercises. I'm thinking, how do I force myself as the teacher to create questions using the be verb? And it just feels very, like I said, it feels very forced. So why not just show them how to do both and show them the difference and just kind of work on that, over several lessons. Sorry, you might hear my dog barking a little bit. She's sleeping. I think she's dreaming, so she's having a little dream bark. She's right here. I don't want to move her. She finally went to sleep next to my foot, so I'm trying not to wake her up. So be verb questions. M is are before the subject. Are you tired? Is she at home? Okay, well, that's kind of the same. Is there, this is not how I taught it actually. Is there a way to present this in terms of adjectives, nouns, and verbs? This is the way I actually did it. So is it an adjective? Use a be verb. You are happy. Are you happy? He is tired. Is he tired? I think this is the way we did it during class last week, and I think this way is actually easier than talking about subjects. Use be if it's a noun. Is she a teacher? Are they your friends? Now, if it's a verb, like an action, not just a be verb, but an action verb, do you live in Anaheim? Does the man run fast? Does she work in the hospital? Okay, so you can create a little visual chart board for a board. You can write it on the board, practice ideas. Okay, and that's what we did basically. Okay, and then, please make an activity that helps students decide which is correct, which they should use. So this is also what we did. So if the word is an adjective or a noun, use a be verb. If it's a verb, like an action verb, then use do or does. Okay. So are you happy? Yeah, this is pretty easy, right? And a lot of students might not even know nouns, verbs, and adjectives. I'm surprised that even the beginning high level, they should know noun, verbs, and adjectives. But if they don't know, you can give them that reminder as well, right? Some of my students don't even know what a verb, noun, or adjective is. Could you make a be verb versus do verb cheat sheet that incorporates that as well? Okay, so as a noun, okay, person, place, or thing. Adjective describes a person or thing. You can give them a lot of examples as well. And then a verb is an action word. I mean, the same concept exists in all languages, I'm assuming. I mean, I know definitely in Spanish and Japanese and a lot of other languages we have nouns, verbs, and adjectives. So I think they'll get it. Sometimes just saying verb, they may not register with them, so they may just need a reminder. And then of course they check their translator or their dictionary or whatever. And you give them a lot of examples as well. Okay. Some students also try to use the ing verb in these situations. I know it's more advanced, but I want to acknowledge they are trying to use it, but also correct them. Could you include a little bit about the ing verb? For example, students often write things like, my wife is work today. So they're kind of experimenting, right? You don't want to discourage them completely and saying, no, you cannot use ing verbs. But at the same time, you don't want to introduce too many things, and you can cover it later. But I think it's good to actually put it out there. So you have a noun, adjective, and a verb. Okay, ing verb, action happening now. Okay, she is working today. She is worked today. Does she working today? Is she working today? So again, you don't want to confuse them too much. But I think if you layer it or you do it little by little, I think they could get it. And you could always say, what I like to say is, this is a more advanced grammar. I'll show you how to use it. But for now, let's focus on just the be and the do verbs. And then later, we're going to use ing verbs. But let me show you how to use it. But let's focus on just the be and the do for now. So I like to acknowledge and recognize their efforts. And I like to show them the correct way to do it, but also to kind of redirect them. Because, you can't study 5 grammar forms at once, right? You still have to kind of, break them up, but also not keep them isolated either. Because, language is not, completely separate. All these things work together. Okay. Okay, so I think that's basically it. So I guess the principle I'm applying here is trying not to box students into whatever the language focus is of that activity. So again, the focus here was on be verbs for questions, but then students kept using action verbs, right? So where is you live, right? And so instead of saying, no, you can't say that and just focus on the be verb, say, okay, oh, you want to use the verb live? Well, that's a verb, right? That's not a noun or an adjective. That's a verb. So in these cases, you have to use do. And because so many people were making these mistakes, what is you cook, right? What is you cook every day? It's just like, well, no, it's what do you cook every day or something like that. So I wanted to recognize that, acknowledge it. And I think it also helps them a lot too, because it shows that you're responding to what they need and not just following a prescribed pattern of grammar things they need to know and, saying, well, we'll do that later, right? Well, it's like, well, why not? You can respond to that now. And especially if it's more than one student, if it's like all the students, then maybe it's something that you need to address. How much time does it take? Almost nothing. And it validates them. It shows that you're responding to what they need. You're helping them. You're not just dismissing them or telling them that they need to do it. They need to wait 3 weeks until the do verbs come up, in the book. And it makes it more engaging. How long did it take me on ChatGPT to make that? I mean, it took me longer to talk about than to actually make. And then, you just keep showing them. I think a lot of language is about contrasts as well. Why do we use this one and not the other one? When we make questions in English, why do we sometimes use the be verb and why do we sometimes use a do verb, right? I mean, if you're going to talk about questions, why not talk about both, right? I mean, focus on one or the other, but present both, right? And so it kind of helps, again, to show those differences. I'm trying to think of an example. I should have made notes before. I'm trying to think of an example for an advanced class. We recently did will have versus for future, what's that? Future perfect versus the regular future tense. So my advanced students, I should say. My advanced students are working on future perfect tense, but they keep asking why they can't just use will. Okay, so what is that special function? Now, yes, the textbook we're using has a little bit of explanation of why the future tense is different. I mean, not the grammatical explanation, but like the meaning, why the meaning is different or the feeling. But it's not a lot. It's pretty skimpy. So, yeah, let's see. Could you provide explanations from a semantic or meaning point of view? So will is about intention or prediction, right? Whereas will have is almost saying it's like more concrete, right? Now again, completion relative to future, whatever. Okay, so semantic contrast. So you're kind of in the future looking back, right? And I think that's the key difference here, which was not in our textbook. You're standing in the future at 7:30 and looking back, the action is complete. And then so what we did actually, oh, that's right. So here's what I did. So, for example, in our goal setting lesson, please make a conversation between a counselor and a student, and the counselor is encouraging will have statements. Okay. So again, you're thinking, okay, why do we actually use this, right? When do we actually use this? Well, again, maybe it makes the future feel more concrete, right? Okay. I want to emphasize how it's different, not just grammatically, but also emotionally or psychologically. Okay, certainty, achievement, and confidence. Sounds like you're already picturing the success almost as if it's done. Again, you're kind of stepping into the future and looking back, right? Visualizing, I like that word, visualizing. Okay, so then I can make an explanation, I can make a cheat sheet. I can make a conversation that they can look at. I can make the conversation longer. They can talk about they can practice the conversation together. That's a good 20 minutes. They can practice their pronunciation. They can write sentences. They can give each other support, all kinds of stuff. So anyway, my point is, if students are making mistakes, the question is, why are they making those mistakes? Or if you're asking them to use one grammatical form and they keep defaulting to another one, why is that, right? And ChatGPT can help you, and it can help show the differences and, and give them activities and so on. And instead of just saying, well, no, you got to use this specific grammar. We can't use that one now. We're going to practice that later. Why not just present both? Or three of them, the three different variations, and then just show them how they're different, and then work on those things a lot, right? And I think being able to distinguish those is something that they'll need, because eventually they're going to have to learn them anyway, but why box them in at that moment?